Welcome today to the Community Fellowship Program Award Information Session and Workshop from the Feast Center for Indigenous STBBI Research. The Feast Center for Indigenous STBBI Research is a partnership between McMaster University and CAN Communities Alliances and Networks with representation from Indigenous and allied scholars, community-based organizations, and diverse traditional knowledge holders. My name is Catherine Booker, and I am the research coordinator for the Feast Center. And with me today is Doris Peltier. Doris?
Ni bonjour. Ko endag zat nishnikas wawashkesh dem. Nishnabe ndao. I'm really excited to be joining Catherine here today for this presentation, this information session about the Community Fellowship program, which is near and dear to my heart. I continue to support this Community Fellowship program as a champion. I champion it and talk about it to my peers and to people I work with within community across the country. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. To open our presentation, where we offer our knowledges and our experiences of community fellowship, we would like to offer our gratitude to the ancestors with this virtual spirit plate. It is important to remember our interconnectedness with the land and honor reciprocal relationships and responsibilities. Because we are a national center, we would also like to acknowledge the territories of everybody who is listening today to this video in Cyberland. We acknowledge that the traditional territories where the Feast Center is situated is housed at McMaster University is the territories of the Haudenosaunee people and the Mississaugas of the Credit within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum. It's one of several wampum that commemorate the relationship between the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Confederacy.
And I'd like to add something about this spirit plate. One of our elders from our Feast Center Council of Elders told us that is the biggest spirit plate I've ever seen. So it's big because we come to you with big hearts and big spirit.
Love it. Thanks, Doris. So we're here today to talk about the Community Fellowship application. And so these are the points that we'll be touching on. Seems like a lot, but we'll get through it. We're going to talk about what is in the application package for the Community Fellowship and why you should apply. Why would you want to be a Community Fellow with the Feast Center? We're going to give you a bit of an overview of the awards. We'll talk about applicant eligibility as well as consultation in developing your application, how this application will be evaluated, what your budget could potentially look like. We're going to give you a checklist to make sure that everything is complete for your application for when you submit it, and then how to contact us for questions because we want to talk to you all the time. We love talking.
Are we allowed questions?
Yeah, Claudette.
Okay,
Claudette,
for the Wapokwini in the house, Claudette Cardinal, Treaty 6 territory, Musqueam clan, and I'm on the lovely lands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam peoples. So if you can go back to the other one about the consultations, can you give a little more details about how many consultations and that little bit of detail? Thank you.
You know what? You're going to get all kinds of detail when I get to that slide, Claudette.
Okay, thank you. That's enough. Answered my question.
So the Feast Center application package for the Community Fellowship has been emailed out to Feast Center team members. You can also email me at bookerc@mcmaster.ca if you wish to have the application package. It's also available on our website, particularly this wonderful call for applications guidelines. You'll find that available to download at the Feast Center website. So what the application package includes is two documents. One is the application and the other is this guidelines, which has a wonderful picture of cedar on the front of it, which you see on the right-hand side of the screen. I could also send you a link to the Feast Center website, which has a lot of different resources that are sort of sister companions to the application website. So make sure you check that out. This is not an online application. It is a hard copy application that you will need to send back to the Feast Center And you can send that to feestaff@mcmaster.ca. I really encourage you to read the call for application guidelines, because that will help you and assist you in crafting all of the different pieces of the application. So I know this says online application. It is a hard copy application. So why a community fellowship? Doris, what do you think? Why a community fellowship from your perspective?
Well, the community fellowship was actually something that I championed when the Feast Center for Indigenous STBBI was established. I championed an opportunity, and I kind of pushed for an opportunity to be included for community, because from my perspective, because I am from community and I have many peers across the country that are engaged in research at different levels in their research journeys and capacities. And I saw this community fellowship as a beautiful opportunity to include those peers that might have been working as PRAs or community research coordinators, and to create an opportunity and a bit of a trajectory for them to continue to build their capacity as researchers. So that's why the community fellowship was established. I made my case and they all went yes.
Doris, you have done so much work to bring community fellowship to the Feast Center. I am in awe in carrying forward this work with you. This fellowship was created as an opportunity to shape community researchers that are not necessarily connected to academic spaces, as Doris was saying. It is a fellowship community that relies on the wisdoms that come from community. And so community members, may include our elders, our youth, women, gender diverse individuals, trans individuals, and Indigenous people with lived experience. Community fellows could also include allied researchers, because the Feast Center is a community of researchers that includes Indigenous and allied scholars, community organizations, traditional knowledge holders, and community members with lived experience. We have multiple stakeholders across the 4 pillars of health research, clinical, basic science, epidemiology, and social sciences. And the Feast Center particularly focuses on Indigenous method and analysis and Indigenous STBBI research. And our community fellowship cohort is reflective of this interdisciplinary aspect of the Feast Center. It's important to recognize that, the Feast Center is relying on the relationships we have as a research network.
And we're actually building on those relationships through the community fellowship and connecting community with scientists in some instances, and working together with those scientists. The community fellows get to work with scientists on the ground, maybe utilizing community-based research methods to do their basic science research, for example. And also wrapping it in Indigenous methods. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Doris. So just as a small aside, our 2022-23 Community Fellowship Program funded multiple projects from C to C to C. And so this is like a wide diversity of different projects in different places for different people. And it's not, one particular, it's not social sciences, it's not just basic sciences, it's a variety of all across the pillars of healthcare. And here's just a quick map where these research projects are located. These are in partnerships with academic institutions, with community-based organizations, relying on the relationality of our network. We've got all of these projects sort of across the territories here, and we're all sort of connected online, which is really nice.
I love that.
And
And every time you have a project, it's going to grow all those little dots.
It's gonna grow. Yeah.
yeah, and I could probably add about what I can add about that map and
Mhm.
those projects.
Mhm.
Like Catherine said, it really reflects the interdisciplinary aspect of Feast, but
Yeah.
it also was a huge success when it was
Yeah.
launched because we did not anticipate that many applications coming in, and we were excited to get all the applications that came in, and we almost funded them all
Mhm.
in that first go around because we were so excited at the uptake of the community fellowship program.
Well, this year we will be funding 4 awards or 4 fellowships. The funding amount is up to $25,000. So we will be having an iterative application deadline of October 30th, 2023. And I know that seems like a really quick turnaround. However, because of the way that we're doing the iterative review, the review and the revisions of applications go all through October and all through November and into December. So notice of decisions will be coming out early January 2023. And then the reporting deadline for funding is generally 1 year, and that will depend on sort of what the research goals for the project are. But I like to always say, you know, once a community fellow, always a community fellow. So, you know, we will be maintaining those relationships beyond sort of the end of what your project proposal timeline is, because we would love you to be part of the Feast Center team afterwards. So I did want to touch on applicant eligibility. The Feast Center team member is the person that needs to co-apply with the person that is applying as the community fellow. The Feast Center team member is the one that is going to be mentoring and supporting the community fellow primarily in partnership with their community-based organization. Applicants, individual applicants, First Nations, Inuit, Métis, or allied researchers can apply for the community fellowship opportunity. If they're not connected with somebody on the Feast Center team, but they are connected to an academic institution or a community-based organization, the Feast Center can help facilitate a pairing process. The sooner you apply and let us know that, the better it will be for you because we'll have more time to create that relationship. So that it's a unique opportunity to have a ongoing partnership for this community fellowship. So if you're, if you're thinking of applying, you know, ask yourself, have you nurtured community connections? Have you, have experience in Indigenous STBBI research? Have you nurtured relationships with elders or knowledge holders who could provide cultural knowledge or support to the goals of your research project, or even some mentorship? Do you have a good working relationship with a community-based organization or academic institution that can support you as a community fellow? And are you interested in making a difference in the field of STBBI in Indigenous communities by constructing a research project or co-constructing a research project based on Indigenous ways of knowing and using Indigenous methods or methodologies? If any of these answers are yes, I would highly recommend you sending an email, connecting with myself, reaching out to somebody on the Feast Center team if you already have a connection with them, or reaching out through the community-based organization that you have a connection with to the Feast Center so that we can help facilitate a relationship so that we can get you applied. As the iterative review process for the community fellowship, one of the biggest pieces of it is consultation and developing your application. So that starts at the beginning of the process. That starts right now if you're answering yes to any of the questions on the previous slide, but it is upon request, so you do need to reach out. Consultation with the research coordinator can include, reading over or co-reading your application pieces up to the application deadline, any revisions and leading up to resubmitting when we're going through feedback from the review committee, help with, creating a budget or, how to get a good letter of support or letters of support from community organizations or academic institutions, or like we mentioned before, if you need support in a pairing process, in connecting with a Fee Center team member or with a community-based organization, if you are a Fee Center team member and you're looking to mentor somebody as a community fellow.
Catherine, I wonder if we could explain for folks that might not know what we mean by iterative. When we say iterative review, as opposed to a completed application, like that's the first step, right? Can we explain what the iterative process is? From my perspective, an iterative review, you know, is a recipe for success, for a successful application if people use that that moment in the application deadline, that part at the beginning.
Yes, so and when we say an iterative review, it is implying the process that is set up to help people succeed in their application. So this is for the community fellowship process. It's in some way optional and in some way not optional. We're asking that you meet the original iterative review deadline for application submissions of October 30th. We are asking that you submit pieces of your application for review, and the people who will be reviewing your application are on the review committee. These are Fee Center team members that can provide you with feedback, provide you with questions, help you create sort of a rigorous methodology. You know, look at maybe your budget and see, well, maybe have you thought of this or that, or other pieces that will help you create a successful research project, because we're relying on the experiences and knowledges of the interdisciplinary FEAST team. So these are folks that are your peers, that are there, that want to help you, do really good work with the project that you're hoping to, the project that you're proposing, that you're hoping to complete. And the other part of that is helping facilitate connections where maybe you don't have the connections currently. So being able to look at your own proposal and say, what are its weaknesses? What can I do to work to revise these, which is part of the revisions and resubmitting. So we're not asking you to resubmit something in totality, maybe necessarily, but we're asking you to look at places where that might be weaker in your proposal, and we're looking at them and strengthening them.
Gotcha.
So this is the hard deadline of October 30th is for the iterative review. It's not the end of the process. It's actually the beginning of the process. We're asking you to meet that deadline, to let us have the time to support you iteratively with feedback, with support, with conversations, with reaching out to our networks and being able to strengthen what you have. If it needs it, maybe it doesn't.
So then my question here would be for the thing, because I'm a repeat, would I be able to use and pull certain things out of the grants that I've already received and then to amplify that into something else?
The focus on this year's
was the
intake is going to be on new research. So people who have been previous community fellows are eligible to reapply. However, we are suggesting that you come with sort of a new focus in your research. We're not necessarily saying that research that you have been doing, like your research areas of research interest, maybe they've changed, maybe they haven't, maybe your research questions have changed, maybe the methodology that you're using has changed, maybe it's with a new community of people that you're seeking to replicate the successes and create the impact. Maybe it's responding to changing community needs. All of these things impact what we mean potentially by new research.
Okay. It's a whole new hands-on land thingy.
I love that.
Harvesting,
I love that.
harvesting medicines heals well-being.
Claudette, you're very hands-on. I like that. You go out to community and you have huge impact.
Well, like to teach that, what I know was like, well, I want everybody else to learn how to harvest medicines, but you can't over harvest. That's the teaching. And once you let somebody know that's not whatever knows the medicines, that's what they impactfully go and do, is just like start to, and I'm like, can't take that medicine.
So that's a different objective. Maybe, yes, maybe it's a different objective. And so these kind of conversations leading up to, you know, application or reapplication, these are really important parts of an iterative process, and they're available to anybody who wants to take part in the process. You know, you can, the first stop obviously is going to be the research coordinator, but obviously I can refer you onwards if you have questions that are more intended for maybe, you know, someone else. I'm here to support and I'm here to help as your research coordinator, Auntie. So just
I love that.
All of October, I've booked my whole calendar for community fellows for October. Just saying, folks.
All right, cool.
So consultation, first stop, choo-choo. So I did want to touch on the evaluation of the proposals. What we're asking in to be submitted for the community fellowship application package is quite a few different pieces, some of which will be coming from the Fee Center team member, some of which will be coming from the community fellows applicant. This wonderful little donut is sort of the overall evaluation of what we'll be looking at out of those different pieces. The largest piece would be community connection. Next is methodology, team composition, capacity building, and then the smallest little piece green there, even though it is an important piece, so don't make it wrong, it's an important part of the donut, is gender considerations. So I just wanted to touch on what those were. So we've got some transparency here in how we understand these, and I can talk to these individually with folks as well if they're interested. So throughout the application, is community connection clearly articulated? You know, is it, have you reached out to an elder or knowledge keeper? Has they been identified to provide cultural knowledge to support the goals of the fellowship or the goals of the research project? Where are you demonstrating familiarity with Indigenous ways of knowing? Does the research project outline the use of Indigenous knowledges? What evidence is there of a good working relationship between the community-based organization or academic institution? And where have they been asked to input in developing the goals of the research project or the fellowship? And what planning is there for knowledge dissemination? And how does that connect to communities? For methodology, I've got some slides here. I could be showing you these. Let's just go over that again. And community connection, obviously meaningful engagement strategies. How are these tied to your research outcome? Meaningful engagement of knowledge keepers, elders, CBOs, institutions. And particularly with Indigenous STBBI research experience.
Can I add something there?
Sure.
In terms of the engagement with the elder, I think it's really vital to know who the elder is going to be for your project, and that you engage them well ahead of time as you're formulating your application and bringing them on board with you, so that you can indicate, I've got an elder that's agreed to work with me, a local elder that can work with me. It's never a good idea to just put somebody's name into an application without a meaningful engagement of that elder. So and if you have we can also help you connect you to an elder if need be in your region, but you know best who is in your region in terms of elders or knowledge holders for your project.
Thank you, Doris.
Auntie Doris.
Auntie Doris. Thank you, Auntie Doris. One of the key pieces of your research project will be outlining the methods and the methodology that you're going to be using, that you intend to use for undertaking your research project. So one of the questions is has the proper methodology been chosen to meet the goals? Obviously, the Feast Center's focuses on Indigenous methods, Indigenous methodologies, decolonizing methods and methodologies. Are these the appropriate use of the methods to meet the goals that you've set out for yourself in your research project? How is it clear that community will be integrated in all of the steps of the research project? Does the project aim to advance Indigenous methods and approaches? Are you building on a method or methodology within your research project? How are you tying the methods to sort of your research intents and goals? One of the pieces that I do want to point out is that it is important to have sort of a rigorous application when you're discussing methods or methodologies. So if you go to the Feast Center website, there are learning tools there that will help you start thinking about methods, methodologies in creating a research project proposal for the Learning Resources webpage on the Feast Center website. There's one that addresses methodology. There's also one that addresses gender considerations as well. In terms of team composition, this can be the research project team. This is also how you connect with Indigenous community, with community-based organizations, and in what ways you're navigating the sort of decision-making and power balances in between all of these. This is also the balance between the mentor and the mentee, and understanding, in what ways we have reciprocal learning happening. What are we learning from each other? So in terms of team composition, the team includes everybody that's sort of part of this project and part of these relationships. So we have the first point here is that outlining the balance of power between the community and the researchers. So as part of what we offer, we have principles of research collaboration and meaningful engagement. We have a MOU template on the Feast Center website. We have a laying out a mentorship relationship, a document which can also assist when you're starting out a mentorship relationship. In what ways are you meaningfully including elders or community who is at the center of the research study? Have they been included sort of in all of the steps of your research project? Is there somebody as part of the research team for the project that is Indigenous, that is living with STBBI or has worked in STBBI prevention? Is there somebody who has experience with community-based research? This could be the community fellow themselves. This could be the Feast Center team member. This could be somebody that you're bringing in to assist with the research project itself, and we're all learning from one another. So this is very important.
And if I can add, about just to kind of underscore the part about lived experience of STBBI, we are working, most of us across the country are working in an integrated way now. And so STBBI is the umbrella term. And under that umbrella, of course, we have HIV. So HIV has been kind of rolled into this STBBI umbrella. So it's not just STBBIs or sexually transmitted infections, like, the ones we're all familiar with. So it's an umbrella term. So it is inclusive of HIV in that umbrella.
Thank you, Doris.
HIV and Hep C, right?
Yeah.
And TB
Or
and
TB.
all those lovely gonorrhea, syphilis, all those lovely little nasty things that we get, right?
Thanks, Greta.
And they're treatable. You get a dose of, too much antibiotics does hinder our immune system even worse, because you get so used to taking antibiotics. I knock on here and I'm like, it's been a couple of years. Oh, COVID, that's when I had to get like nukes, 500 milligrams of amoxicillin for 2 weeks. And that crappy pill I don't like, that wacko pill I call it. What is it that it's a white pill. I had to take it because I lost my hearing. So
Wow.
Community knowledge is right here. And so
prednisone. Yuck.
yeah, oh, I've tried that. I've had that before. That's not great. So what we're looking for in terms of team composition is evidence of capacity to complete the work that you have proposed for yourself. Gender considerations are an integral part of your research proposal, and that could look different depending on what it is that you're proposing. So this is very sort of a wide understanding of gender considerations, and I'm happy to have discussions with folks who are looking for a more in-depth understanding. Also remember there's learning resources on the Peace Center website. So what are the considerations of gender or a gender analysis within the context of your own research proposal? How does it highlight gender as it intersects with other aspects of identity or socioeconomic status in the project? How does the proposal take into account people of multiple genders who may be participating in the study? If you have indicated that gender is not a necessary thing to include in how you're proposing, you're doing your research, why? What is your justification for excluding gender in this research project? Speak to it in some way. That's an important part. The other part is capacity building that we will be evaluating, and that can be seen throughout all of the different pieces of the application process, because this is a mentorship opportunity as well as a research project, as well as relationality and how we are engaging in the Peace Center. You know, where have you defined learning opportunities, and is the level of mentorship appropriate for the project? And so that part will be sort of 20% of what we're evaluating throughout all of this. So it's not necessarily just capacity building as part of your research project, but in general capacity building. Another part of that is, in what ways will partnership in this opportunity be maintained in a good way to sort of meet the needs of the fellowship and of the research? So I have one small slide of budget considerations. For your budget, we suggest that you outline where and how this funding will be used, up to $25,000. You do need to disclose if you have other funds that are coming in to do this same research, or if prior funding has been made available. Other than that, it's up to you how you spend the money.
I'm just going to stand on the street corner and give everybody money. Just kidding.
And what would you be researching?
And take their picture and how everyone was gracious and full of excitement when I just passed them by. You know, the $1 million guy that goes and gives people money, and he dresses like, you know, cash cab. Yeah, no cookum recipes. You got to come with a recipe.
Okay,
cookum's goods.
So, these are the important parts that you need to have with your application. For the iterative review part, for the first deadline of October 30th, we're suggesting that you include section 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8, which is information from the CCT member, information about the community fellow candidate. It will include both of your CVs, your resumes, and then section 3 and 4. These are the two sections that are most important, that talk about the research project that you're hoping to undertake, how this project advances Indigenous knowledges and method in STBBI research, as well as the project details. And then statement 8, that's all on the community fellow applicant. We need a statement of interest from you, minimum 1 page, maximum 2 pages if you're a talker. We're suggesting that you include all of these for this initial iterative review round. You also do need to include the research budget and letters of support, but we're suggesting that you save those pieces sort of as the last pieces that you gather and to submit, because sometimes it takes a long time to get a letter of support from an institution or from a community-based organization. So get your requests in early, but give them lots of time to get them back to you. So you have sort of until the end of the process to the very last minute to get your letters of support in, but like request early is my piece of advice. And then of course the research project budget, sometimes that takes a little bit longer to decide sort of how you want to spend the money. Does it go into stipends? Does it go into honorariums? So those are things that we can talk about as well. One of the things that we do suggest for the research project budget is that the community fellows set aside some funding for professional development, as well as a stipend for themselves, if they are going to be sort of the main drivers of the research project.
Question for the stipend for that part, what is a reasonable amount for that part? I know, I think I read about the 10% for whatever admin and all that, but
yeah, so if you're having somebody administer sort of doing admin work, we've suggested maybe 10% of the budget. We've suggested $2,500 in and around there for professional development. We're thinking for a community fellow who is doing, the research project, leading the research project in mentorship with the Peace Center team member, like you wouldn't want to come in too low on a stipend. You want to make sure that you can complete the research project. So if you have honorariums or specific events that you need to fund, that's something that maybe you can talk about with the Fee Center team member, or if you are the Fee Center team member, with the community fellow out of that $25,000. So that does need to be sort of a collaborative conversation, but we are here to support you through that. And also keep in mind the other opportunities that the Feast Center offers. We do have KTE funding that people can apply to. So don't over budget for things, and certainly don't budget for things that the Feast Center does provide. If you apply to join us for land-based learning or writing retreat, we do cover sort of the travel and the costs of those. So those do not need to be budgeted for either.
Okay.
As you know. I do want to stop, Claudette, if you have any questions. Doris, if you have anything you would like to add.
No, I think it's all really good. Good information that you provided, Catherine, and yeah, so your go-to person for all of this is Catherine. On the chance, if there's a time that you can't get a hold of Catherine, you can also reach out to me if you have any questions. My role primarily will be to see who's interested out there and to really champion this opportunity for the broader community out there, within our own networks and within my own network as well. So I can be available for questions, but your primary contact is Catherine, and I support Catherine in any area of this work that where she needs me to roll up my sleeves.
Thanks, Doris. Okay, I think we will stop our recording here. Thank you very much. All right.
All right.
Stop the
And we
recording.
finished 10 minutes before.